We arrived from Seattle into the not-so-central Vancouver Pacific Central Station. The first thing we noticed outside the station was that homeless people were more visible than other Canadian cities, probably due to Vancouver having a climate more similar to the UK than most of Canada. This included one guy who was randomly carrying around a single ski. We walked to the nearby SkyTrain station to catch it to actual central Vancouver where our hotel was located. After checking in, we checked out the local restaurant. Safe to say we'd be giving that one a miss. We started exploring Vancouver by heading to Vancouver Harbour. Downtown Vancouver is located on a peninsula, so we decided to walk down the Vancouver Harbour waterfront to Stanley Park, which is located on the tip of the peninsula. I managed to find a website that told me exactly how big Stanley Park is. It is bigger than Central Park in New York, and around 3 times bigger than Hyde Park in London, but it's half the size of the Hiroshima bomb radius and nearly 10 times smaller than the Skyrim map. So it's very big for a park, but it's pretty small for a nuclear bomb blast or open world game map. While walking down the waterfront, we passed Vancouver Harbour Flight Centre, which caters for scheduled seaplane flights, which are an integral part of the transport system in the region. This map displays the range of destinations that one of the seaplane operators serves, including international flights from Seattle and waterplane flights from Vancouver International Airport. Unfortunately, I've not been able to convince Eve to get on a seaplane yet. I'll keep trying.
I think I'd be terrified of a seaplane.
Well, at least if it crashes into the water, it's alright.
Yeah, yeah, true. They're just heading straight, but look at it, it doesn't look like it's going to make it.
No, it's weird that.
Shame it couldn't be taken back in water.
Surely there's a lot more friction.
Yeah. You need it.
After watching the seaplane survive its takeoff, we carried on walking down the densely populated waterfront towards Stanley Park. I love the Canadian black squirrels. Speed! After around 30 minutes of walking, we arrived at Stanley Park. What really surprised us was how quickly it felt like remote wilderness and not a major city. Yeah.
Pretend this was out in the wilderness. We've walked from quite out a few miles back in Vancouver.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah.
It's alright, I've got my trusty camera on, so we'll have a great found footage movie.
Oh yeah, it'll be famous.
Maybe a not so great found footage film, given my camera had started to play up at this point due to low light and me putting in the wrong settings like an idiot.
Not happy with it. We better go. I'm scared I'm going to get attacked.
I've seen that. Having survived Baby Squirrel Bridge, we stumbled across Beaver Lake, which sadly was beaverless. And a Sasquatch.
Wow, a miniature schnauzer. And what a chunky one.
Yeah, well, I'd rather be a fat schnauzer than a Sasquatch anyway. Eventually, we found a stream and followed it down to the sea, where we had a close encounter of the sealy kind. That's pretty chill. Doesn't seem bottled up, does it? Just playing around. It's pretty majestic. After our seal spotting escapades, we decided to call it a day and go back to our hotel via one of Vancouver's many trolleybus services. Day 2, and Eve is angry because we're late for the whale watching tour.
10-minute walk away from the ferry. from the hotel to where we were going, to where we're going.
I think you the direction.
He's trying to wind me up now.
For a second. Yeah.
I shouldn't be able to go on your fucking head.
What was that? Say it into the camera.
Nothing. If you wanna.
Despite the drama, we made it to the boat, which would take us to another boat on time. The Vancouver Aqua Bus operates to the south of central Vancouver, with regular shuttles across False Creek. Costs vary from $4.50 to $10 depending on the journey length, but cheaper passes for longer periods are available. And so we began our voyage with the Prince of Wales tours. Personally, I'd have gone for the name Whaley Good Tours, but Prince of Wales is alright. Heading into English Bay, and we got some good views of how densely populated and high-rise downtown Vancouver is. Despite this density, house prices are on par with US cities like New York and San Francisco, despite having far lower wages. It's maybe not surprising when you consider Vancouver is regularly ranked as one of the most livable cities in the world. You'd think I'd have learned that boats are cold by this point. Smoothly done. One wildlife spot. Barely out of Vancouver, and something had already been spotted. It was over here, just like quite.
So I'll use the clock directions. So the front of the boat is 12 and the back of the boat is 12. So this male looks like it could be a very famous male known as Chainsaw. Now Chainsaw is super cool and I am a huge fan of Chainsaw because he has such a cool dorsal fin there. So that would explain why we have two whales here, because he travels just with his mum. So the little one that was just off of our right hand side, that was probably his mum. Her name is Whidbey too. So she's the second whale to have been called Whidbey, but she's named after Whidbey Island in Washington State. And Chainsaw is named after the fact that his fin is pretty gnarly right there. And Chainsaw is, oh there he is, he's such a big boy. Oh my god. There's a lot of weight back there. And you can see the other one in the distance as well. So obviously
that's the
What's that? It's fish. Is that fish? They don't. They're seal eaters. They just play around with them, don't they? It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah.
I didn't expect it.
just saying this is going to be our last looks at chainsaw and what great last looks. We're going to head onwards from here. We're going to go look for some more whales and maybe even some seals and sea lions as well.
After that amazing experience with my new favourite killer whale, Chainsaw, the boat moved further along to a colony of seals and sea lions. Maybe one of the killer whales fancied a snack?
Now, if you are in the water right now, they are not shy. They will come right up to you and they might want to play with you. So be aware they have sharp claws on the front of flippers and their skeletal structure looks like that of a grizzly bear. So their skull is almost identical. Oh, that one keeps trying to climb up onto that rock and every time it just doesn't succeed. So they eat about 40 different types of fish, and what has been happening because of global warming, the water temperatures have been rising, which encourages more.
After watching the sadistic sea lions push each other into the water, we headed further into the Strait of Georgia, where we spotted these spats. We'd found a pod of majestic humpback whales.
So far with these three whales, we do recognize two of them. So the largest one is a female humpback. That one there, that's a little closer to us. So that female, her name is Denver. We've been seeing her up in this area for a good number of years now. And she is traveling with her most recent calf that she would have had over last winter. So that calf actually just got a name recently. Ether. So Zephyr and Ether are traveling together. So this is really the only kind of family group that we see with these humpbacks is between the mothers and calves. It only exists for the first year of the calf's life. So the calves are born down again near Hawaii and Mexico around the months of January to February. They'll spend a little while down there just growing a bit. They'll be feeding from their mother's milk, which is really rich in fat. Then once they're a few months old, they'll be brought up to these areas on the coast. Once they get up here, they'll still be feeding from that milk, but the mother will slowly start to wean the calf off of the milk.
They were swimming this way, so I'm just gonna go. There we go. Just call me the whale whisperer. Did you see that?
Oh yeah.
You can see the red in the water there, so that is actually coming from the humpback whales. It does show that they are swimming.
Here.
That was some pretty cool footage, all thanks to me being able to guess where the whales popped up. That's why they call me the whale whisperer. We also saw this plane flying around. It looks a bit sus, so it's definitely one for the conspiracy theorists. After that experience with the humpback whales, we set off back to Vancouver, only to stumble across more humpback whales feeding. Yeah.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
The other one is lunch feeding over there as well. So they have this extended
can see this one clearly open its mouth. Whale cruise over, and we decided to look round Granville Island. Well, when I say island, that's maybe a little bit tenuous. Granville Peninsula doesn't have the same ring to it. We took a slow walk around Granville Island Market. While at the market, Eve bought me my very own stuffed chainsaw. Unfortunately, we chose the possessed evil one. Back outside, and we timed it perfectly for a passing hurricane. Clearly the right time of year for everything to blow off.
Like the leaves in it though.
Yeah.
That's just completely different from this one, isn't it? On the boat it was glorious sunshine.
Yeah. Didn't expect it to thunderstorm, to be honest. According to the weather forecast, there was no chance of rain. This doesn't look like no chance of rain.
Even the ducks are like, this is a bit much for me.
And the ducks were right. It was a bit much. So we got the metro back to the hotel. Day 3 in Vancouver, and we were travelling to Capilano Park in North Vancouver. Unfortunately, as this map shows, North Vancouver isn't very accessible by rail transit, with neither the commuter rail service, shown in purple, or the SkyTrain serving North Vancouver. In fact, if you can make one criticism of the SkyTrain, it's that it doesn't serve some very densely populated areas, such as the West End area of downtown, or some key trip generators, like the University of British Columbia. The latter connection is in the process of being rectified, with the first phase of an underground extension of the Millennium Line, shown here in black, which is expected to be completed in 2027. So after listening to this funky street music, we boarded a public bus to Capilano. Unfortunately, we later realised that a free express bus service was included in the price of our ticket to Capilano Suspension Bridge. You'd think a transport planner and former transport planner could figure that out by themselves, but no, clearly not. When we arrived at Capilano Suspension Bridge, we found out it was haunted. Ghost dogs. Ghost dogs. So with the hope that ghost dogs share Eve's fear of most things, including heights, I quickly made my way onto the cliff walk.
No, the whole thing's just shut. No, Jack.
The walk provided brilliant views of the suspension bridge and Capilano River, and was thankfully ghost dog free. Perhaps the infestation of giant spiders was keeping them away. By this point, Eve had had enough of the cliff walk, so after proving my manliness by walking on this thing, we moved on to the main event, the suspension bridge. Now, to be fair to Eve, this thing rocked quite heavily, and once you were over to the other side, there was no way back, except for the way you came. Still, it was a pretty cool experience with good views, although a little bit over the top with the weird ethereal music. Having survived the suspension bridge, we got to experience the forest exhibition and treetop walk, complete with lazily built paths with trees in the middle.
Yeah, it does seem a little bit remote.
By this point, we'd become a bit bored of the forest. I think this sums up the experience.
Trees. If you've seen one tree, you've seen them all.
So overall, I enjoyed the Capilano suspension bridge, but I don't understand the extortionate $80 Canadian ticket price. Perhaps that's the premium for visiting an attraction from the Air Canada safety video.
If there is a need to evacuate the aircraft, leave your baggage behind and follow the seat-mounted light.
Anyway, after visiting the suspension bridge park, we decided to walk into Capilano Regional Park, where we found the exact same view as before, but without the $80 ticket price. Sure, the bridges were maybe not as nice, and there was a slight increase in chance of being attacked by a cougar or a bear, but not $80 worth of increased risk. The forest in the regional park is classed as temperate rainforest. When I think of rainforest, like most people, I think about the tropical rainforests. So it was a really cool experience to be in a rainforest environment without the threat of deadly tropical animals. Another cool thing about the Capilano River during October is the salmon run. The park is home to the Capilano Fish Hatchery, which was built in 1971 to stop the decline in salmon numbers. The hatchery was completely free to visit and included fun activities like watching people carry salmon out of the salmon mobile and watching the salmon travel up the river using the fish ladder.
My God.
That's a lot of salmon. We finished our trip through Capilano Park with a tiring hike to the top of Cleveland Dam, where we caught our breath while admiring the views of Capilano Lake and the mountains in the background. Not content with wasting a sizable chunk of money on one overpriced tourist activity in a single day, we decided to do one more by taking the sky ride up to the top of Grouse Mountain. The ride up did offer great views of the city, and the Strait of Georgia basked in sun, but those views were quickly obscured by cloud, reminding us that we were visiting in one of the 10 months that make up Vancouver's cloudy season. Once at the top of the mountain, we walked around a pretty deserted and cold mountain resort. Just when it was looking like we'd paid almost $80 for nothing, we spotted the mountain's two permanent residents, Grinder and Cooler, the orphaned grizzly bears. I'm glad that I did this towards the start of my time in Canada. The size of the bears definitely discouraged me from taking too many long walks in isolated parts of Canada, and it definitely gave me a newfound appreciation of paying for bear spray.
Cold in the water.
Good.
I also spotted some wild deer, but as the day drew to a close, I felt as though we could have paid far less and had a similar day. Day 4 in Vancouver, at least I think it was day 4, and I had planned to hire bikes and ride around the many segregated bike lanes and routes in the city, and do the kind of things that are expected of a transport YouTube channel. Unfortunately, Mother Nature had other ideas, and had decided to produce a never-ending rainstorm. I live in Manchester, in the UK, where it rains constantly at all times of the year, so I'm used to rain, but this was pretty significant rainfall. Initially, we tried to persevere, and walked through Stanley Park, and along the seawall, where I found a new friend.
It's so horrible. What are they for?
How are you today?
That poor crab.
Hello, it's famous. Clearly Eve wasn't a fan of my friend, so I instead decided to give Mr. Crabclaw a dignified send-off. By this point, we were soaked, so we retreated to Vancouver Aquarium, where we saw one of my favourite animals, sea otters. Look, they're so cute. Well, they are until you find out what they do to baby seals. As far as aquariums go, Vancouver was pretty good. There was also sea lions, harbour seals, and this long spotty fish. And there was also one of these, which I've never seen in an aquarium before. Unfortunately, the aquarium wasn't very pleased with Eve breaking into one of the tanks for a photo, so we quickly ran away, ending our final full day in Vancouver on the run. On our final day, the rain became torrential, so after getting soaked waiting for a seat for breakfast, we used our Compass smart cards to board the SkyTrain to the airport. Of course, as the SkyTrain is an automated driverless metro system, it means that the frequency and reliability are very high, but even more importantly, it meant that I could sit at the front and record the journey out of the window. Surprisingly, that excited cheering you can hear is not me. As I made my way to the airport, I considered my time in Vancouver. It's definitely one of my favourite cities in the world. It's got a great and progressively improving transport system, and amazing access to incredible parks and stunning scenery, with really cool wildlife. I don't think 4 days was enough time to see everything, so I'd definitely go back in the future. That said, it isn't a cheap city. The house prices are prohibitively expensive, and that is also reflected in the hotel costs. And a lot of the big tourist attractions seem overpriced. Overall though, I've got to say, Vancouver is worth the price.
This building